Thank you very much. Do you hear me? Is everything okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to say it's very important. First of all, I would like to thank all Eduniversal team for their efforts and their achievements in organizing such interesting event. And I think that we will speak about the programs of the future, but we can say that this is the event of the future. Because this is a very good answer for our COVID time. And I would like to say about the program of the future as our answer for the COVID time. And first of all, I would like to say a few words about our institution. We were founded in 1989 by International Management Institute Geneva and National Academy of Science. And since 1989, we offered the first in the former Soviet Union MBA program according to the international standards. And maybe it's simply to say that in 1990, it was merger of two Swiss business schools. One of them was International Management Institute Geneva, and the other one was IMEDA from Lausanne. And they created IMD in Lausanne. So you understand that we have the Swiss roots, and we have the same business model as the MD. So we have relatively small MBA program. We have a wide range of certificate program, and we have a very good connections with corporate world. We are concentrated only on executive education. We haven't any master's program or bachelor programs. We have we are concentrated on executive education, and we are very proud because we have very important international partners. We have partnerships with Tepper Business School at Carnegie Mellon University, more than 25 years. For sure, we have partnerships with IMD because we have the same Swiss roots. We have partnership with South Africa, Stellenbosch Business School, and GIPS, and we are very proud with partnership with SAPES in China. We have we are holder of CIMAN accreditation since 2004. We have AMBA accreditation for our MBA program, and we is halfway through the ACSB accreditation. And we are proud to be the only one Ukrainian business school in 4 Pounds League. And we have this award for 5 years already. And we are the best business school in Ukraine. But we work only as business school. And we have offline education, and as you understand, that the March 2020 isn't easy time for the whole world and for Ukraine. On March 12th, it was announced that all business stopped, national lockdown started. And during this time, we have our offline classes, and we have to move online. And in March, we have negotiations with our businessmen, Ukrainian businessmen, who suggest us to create a program for young businessmen, young professionals who would like to develop themselves in public sectors. And in April 1990, it was lockdown in Ukraine. We organized the special program. We call this program Generation Next, with the focus on social development and fully online. We say that this program is for young people with years between 24 and 38, with proven track records of activism in social sphere. And we say that this program for people who would like to be a public servant, social entrepreneurs, or representatives of NGOs. And we say that this program will be fully online and it will be national outreach. And we announced this program in April. It was not a good time to announce some program because it was all people think not about the education, but about the health. It was the first wave of corona in the world, and nobody knows about how the things will develop. But it was our experiment because we didn't do any advertisement. We use only Facebook, and we said that we didn't pay anything for advertisement because we use only the posts, the post of the people who would like to teach in this program, because we said that this program will be about business and social sphere, but we would like to invite some important people from government, from business, from social sphere to teach in this program. And they post some, and they did some posts on Facebook about this program. So in May, we start this program, and we had more than 300 applications, and we have 90 participants. 90 participants from 10 regions of Ukraine. And we were ready to study fully online during the pandemic time. And they know that the final project after this education could be in social sphere. And they have to promote the ethical, social important cases during their education. And now we can say that the program was very successful. I think that we achieved the goals that we set, because we say that it could be like cascading positive changes during this program. We have 7 people who won the regional elections, because in Ukraine we had regional elections in October, and among our participants were 7 people who decided to participate in the election and won. We have the very interesting social impact, and without any advertisement, and we didn't spend any hryvnia for advertising of this program. But according to social media, we have a huge social we have a huge impact about this program. And we have, because this program was full online, we use the modern technology. The program was in Zoom, but people, students who participate in this program, they did their homework. It was a group discussion, the case discussion, and then the individual projects. And they defended the individual projects. And the projects, some projects now implemented, and I think that it will be a very good social impact for development of such important sphere. And I think that this is a very good example. It was like our answer for COVID time, because this is very unusual for us and very quick answer for the market maybe demand, because we think that this is very important, this social program, and the program was social impact, and we did it. We did it very quickly and very successful. And it wasn't the program with free of charge. The participants paid for this program. And I can say that this program was in focus of our government, of our politicians, and former prime minister, and some ministries, and the important businessmen of our countries. They participated as a guest lecturers, as a speakers during the education in this program. And I can say that AMBA, Associations of MBAs, choose our program among other two as the best programs with the social impact. We don't know the final results, because we will know these results in January. But now we know that we're in the short list with this program in the nomination as the program with the most social impact. I understand that this is not the program, not the absolutely new approach, but I'm sure that this is the program for the future, because we will continue this project. And I think that in March, next March, we will announce the new enrollment for this program, which we called Generation Next. Maybe that's all. I'm ready to answer your questions.
Thank you very much.
And again, thank you very much for Eduniversal for these very interesting events, for the efforts in organizing these events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iryna. Unfortunately, we don't have so much time. So if you want to ask your questions, you can write it in a public chat or to Eduniversal and or to Iryna directly, and we will transfer all your questions to Iryna. Okay? Thank you very much. And now I'm inviting Dr. Roy Mouawad, Quality Director at Geneva Business School. Let's applause to him. Do you need some help in downloading your presentation or something?
I'm uploading the slides, but it says it's converting, so I'll just give it some time.
Okay, great. So I remind that all of our speakers have like around 10 minutes to talk.
Can you see my slides now?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for being here on the last day of the event at 2 p.m. I'm really happy to be here today, and as a way of introduction, I'd state that my name is Roy, and I'm the Quality Director at Geneva Business School. And I'm really happy to also introduce my colleagues who are also in the audience, Ms. Lena Khan, Ms. Vanya Maplestone, and Mr. Sergio Rodriguez. Now, in this part of today's session, when we talk about the programs of the future, what I would like us to focus on is basically the context that we've been living in for the past 10 months, how this has impacted us as a business school. We'll also talk about our vision of the future, how do we see the future of education? And then finally, to wrap this up with a discussion and a conclusion on the next steps and what's expected from us. Now, to start with the context, as we all know, we've been living through tough times. Businesses, education institutions, companies, NGOs, we're all in the same boat. We decided to go online to follow the online model back in March 2020, but we spent months preparing for this shift because we foresaw that this was going to happen. We usually collect a lot of data from students, from faculty, from staff members to assess the quality of our programs, to get a better understanding of how we're performing, but also to make sure that we are providing the students with the best knowledge and resources. So what we decided to do differently this time was to collect data in a more personal and informal way. So throughout spring 2020, we not only managed to schedule meetings with students, with faculty, and with staff members, of course online, but we also collected informal course evaluations. So rather than waiting until the end of the semester to collect this information, we decided to do that throughout the semester. And what we did with this survey is basically we tried to highlight what students found as their favorite things about the courses and their recommendations or things that they would suggest we improve. I won't go over all the findings, the results, the statistics, the numbers, and so on, but what I would like to share with you are some facts, some quotes, some comments that the students shared with us. And these comments mainly focused on 4 areas. So we can see that mainly what students really liked about the courses, about this online model, was the level of interaction, the dynamics, the communication that we had in our courses. Students found them to be very engaging, very interactive, that faculty members were able to clearly explain why we're doing what we're doing, what they are expected to learn, what are the learning outcomes, what tools we will be using, and so on. Another area that I'd like to highlight is the learning area. So this is where students really focused on the skills that they are developing, the content of the classes, the fact that they were given the chance to create an idea, but also to see it happen, to develop the idea. So what some of them were saying is that they were learning a lot from these sessions. Another area was related to support. So this is where students really were grateful as to how helpful faculty members were, how ready they were to support the students, how keen to help they were, how patient and kind they were. And finally, in terms of environment, what students really liked about the courses was the openness of the teachers, the atmosphere that the school created, but also the diversity inside the classes. Now, in terms of what the students would like to see improve, we can see that on the following slide. And basically that was related to 3 areas, which are the workload, the technology, and the material or content. In terms of workload, the majority of the students really highlighted that the workload was really extreme. And I think this is what many educators fall into as a trap, which is to provide additional workload, mainly because the students are not on site because of the online model. Another issue that they suggested to improve was basically related to the platform. As we know, many of our students are abroad at different time zones, and many of them stated that sometimes it's not easy to follow given these differences. Being an online student is not always easy. And finally, they also suggested to have additional content, additional resources, but as optional or recommended material and not compulsory. Now, you can see the general feedback here, but what I would like to share with you is the next point, which is our perception of what's going on, our vision of the future, how we see the future, and what are some of the key elements of that vision. So you can see that, first of all, when we talk about the future, we understand that the future of education is mainly going to involve more and more experiential learning, where students learn by doing rather than learn through rote learning, learn through repeating and memorizing content. So what we decided to do is mainly to focus on the pace of learning. And what we decided to do is to understand that students need to learn at their own pace. So it's not the teacher to set the pace, but the student has to set the pace. So what we did here is we designed what we called the International Executive MBA program, which involves a hub in which we share material, resources, recorded videos, where faculty members can provide all the support, the material, the content, the video recordings, but then it's the student to decide on the pace, how fast they want to go. And we found this to be very useful when it comes to leveling. When some students have, for example, a higher level than their colleagues, or when some students require some additional support in one specific area. Another thing that we envision for the future is basically the focus of education, where we think that we need to move from general focus to a more specific focus. And what we mean here is that when education is general, there's a tendency for us to provide additional and perhaps unnecessary information to students. And what we would like to do instead is to provide students with specific information and to develop specific needed skills. And this is why a year ago we decided to create what we call sectors. So in other words, these sectors are basically within the same program, like for example, the Bachelor of International Management, we assign students to different sectors, such as international management, sports management, entrepreneurship, and so on. And what we did there is we created sort of groups where the students get to work closely with their faculty members, with their colleagues. We created WhatsApp groups, we created hubs, communication channels, so that students don't just feel part of the bigger program, but students also feel part of a sector, of a community of practice. This is where we can focus on the specific needs and skills of that specific sector. So I, as a sports management student, would be able to develop skills that are required in the future. Another area that we see in the future is this shift from the essays, exams, and assignments as a way of assessing students' performance and learning towards a more project-based approach, where we assess students' skills by applying them to a real case, real situation, or a real project. And this is where we have been partnering with experts, with professors, with companies, and so on, to try to give the students a real life experience. And what we see here is basically that our role as a business school is to train the students and to give them a real life experience. We don't want them to graduate and then to start thinking about their job, their careers, their work. We want them to start doing that while studying throughout their journey at Geneva Business School. So in other words, Geneva Business School is their internship. This is where they get to learn by doing. Now, with that being said, I'd like to move on to the next point, which is basically the last point of my discussion. And what I would like to say here is that I would like to hear a bit more from you. What is your vision of the future? What are some examples from your institutions What are some best practices that you would like to share with the rest of us? But I'm aware that we're running out of time. So if you could please share these with the Eduniversal team, that would be great. And finally, to conclude this session, I'd like to focus on one quote by Heraclitus, which states that the only thing that is constant is change. So in other words, we shouldn't be afraid of change. We think that we need to understand that change is part of our lives. It's part of what we do. And we also need to prepare students for change. So what we think as a business school is, first of all, it's important for us to have a clear vision. What is our understanding, our vision of the future? What are the jobs that the market will require in the future? What skills are students required to have when they graduate? But then for this to happen, we need to think about a plan, a clear plan that will need to focus on how we will train the students, how we will prepare them for the future. And this is when we ask the question, what about our educators? Are they prepared for that future? And finally, the last point is, yes, the plan is very important, but we also need to be flexible. We need to adapt because perhaps the plan won't go as planned. So this is where we need to ask ourselves, are we ready? Is our infrastructure ready? Do we have the right mindset? And I think we do. Thank you very much, everyone. And I really look forward to your comments, your suggestions, your best practices. And I would be more than happy to discuss them with you.
Thank you very much, Roy. And as I said, because we are very limited in time, all the questions you can write in our public chat or to Eduniversal team, and we will transfer them to Roy, and we will put you in contact. And now I'm inviting on the stage Professor Rishikesha Krishnan, Director of Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Welcome, Rishikesha.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm very happy to be with all of you today. And it's a pleasure to be part of this Eduniversal conference. So I would like to share with you some ideas on how programs of the future can build tomorrow's leaders. That's the theme of my talk. I'm not sure whether you will be able to see it on the screen. Let's hope so.
Rishikesha, I just also wanted to comment that you have like 8 minutes to talk, okay?
Yeah, not a problem. I'll finish in 8 minutes. I'm just waiting to see if okay, finally the slide has come, okay.
Take some time to download the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll try to start speaking. I don't know how quickly this will move. It seems to be quite slow. Essentially, our institute's mission has 3 elements to it. And one of the elements is to nurture innovative global business leaders, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and social change agents through holistic and transformative education. And this means that we need to prepare the leaders for tomorrow. And what does that actually mean in practice is what I'm going to speak about during my presentation. Let me start by just telling you a little bit about an experience I went through in my course last year, my strategy course. So in my strategy course, we discussed a number of different case studies. And one of them was on the airline industry, where we were talking about industry analysis and competitive positioning. Another case study was on the hotel chain Accor and how it was to cope with the threat of disruption from Airbnb. And another interesting case study was on Uber, which was on the strategic management of network businesses. Just amazing to think that, less than a year later, all 3 of these businesses are facing very significant challenges. And we were not able to anticipate any of these challenges at the time we had the discussion just about a year ago. So this tells us that perhaps, there's something we need to be doing in a business management program in order to anticipate better what are the kind of challenges that are likely to come up. Of course, these, sudden unexpected events like black swan events are not completely unknown in our lifetime. We have seen the 9/11 terrorist events in the US. We saw events like the 2007-08 financial crisis, which though they were foreseen by a small group of analysts, were missed by many others. So it's not as though we are completely unfamiliar with these unexpected events, but nonetheless, we seem to be quite challenged in anticipating and responding to these. And the reason could be that we live in a turbulent world, which brings us to the question of how do we prepare leaders for a turbulent world? What are the qualities and skills that our future business leaders must have to handle the risks and grasp the opportunities of an increasingly turbulent world before us? So to my mind, if we can address this issue, then we would be much better prepared to build the leaders of tomorrow. So the first important capability or the first important competence we need to build in our business leaders of tomorrow is the ability to avoid decision-making biases. We all know that we tend to pay more credence to data that support our own hypotheses. We tend to give more weightage to recent events. And these biases can be very dangerous in a turbulent world. So one of the things we need to be very, very careful about in our business management programs is helping our students be aware of these biases and prevent these biases from affecting their decision making, which essentially means that you have to have more people asking questions, playing the devil's advocate, avoid groupthink, and of course just have a very strong internal compass that enables you to keep asking questions to avoid these biases. Second important thing is to practice scenario planning. Many times students think they can do better in the future by better prediction. But I would argue that in an uncertain and turbulent world, prediction won't help you much because no one can tell the future. But one can help you is a technique like scenario planning. Can you build alternate scenarios? And once you have thought through these scenarios, you will be better prepared if they are actually to come about. So it's not a question of estimating the probability of scenarios, it's actually going through them, just like Shell demonstrated in the oil industry. Third important thing is better identification and assessment of risks. And here the important thing is to scan for weak signals, tap local intelligence, leverage extended networks, mobilize search much better so that you can pick up the weak signals before anyone else. Very recently, one of India's largest credit card issuers started reporting a rise in bad debts. That's a pretty important sign that some of the biggest and more prosperous people in India are actually beginning to face defaults in their credit cards. That's a danger signal for the rest of the economy. The next important capability is to build business continuity and contingency plans. Interestingly, in India during the COVID pandemic, particularly during the early days of the pandemic when there were lockdowns, the network of stores that enabled Indian consumers to continue living was the Kirana stores or the small mom and pop grocery stores, not the big e-commerce chains. So it's important that we build continuity and contingency plans much better in large corporations. Smart entrepreneurs are intelligent risk takers, not gamblers. This is the entrepreneurial mindset and the lean mindset that we need to develop in our business leaders of tomorrow. They need to continuously test assumptions and pivot when their earlier assumptions no longer hold. This is another very important capability for the business leaders of tomorrow. Understanding and appreciating technology is key. I think we know all about how important technology is, but the ability to embrace new technologies is a critical skill for our leaders of tomorrow. And you can see India's most successful finance company, Bajaj Finserv, has completely changed its credit rating model to rate customers based on credit scores arising from data rather than going by historical trends and other proxies which they used in the past. Collaboration is another essential component of being successful in the world of today. Companies like Ford are practicing smart mobility. They are collaborating with a whole range of companies across the spectrum of the business they do. Ford is today one of the largest recipients of US patents, which would have been unimaginable maybe 20 years ago. And a lot of this is because their new focus on mobility, the ability to collaborate, the ability to innovate in technology. These are very important. And large companies need to collaborate with the small companies need to collaborate with the big. So business leaders need to be able to forge and sustain relationships. This is, again, a skill we are not very good at teaching in business schools, but this is an essential skill for tomorrow. So to my mind, just to sum up, these are some of the essential things we need to do. To build the leaders of tomorrow, we need to make sure they can avoid decision-making biases. They should be able to practice scenario planning. They should be able to detect weak signals, build business continuity and contingency plans, develop an entrepreneurial mindset with lean thinking, understand and appreciate technology, and develop collaborative skills. If they can do all this, they would be well placed to be the leaders of tomorrow. And this is what the future of business education is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much.